What's up, everybody? I hope you are ready to dive deep in a pile of manure because we will be taking a look at the most unhinged Elden Ring reviews. So here we go with the first one. 1 star. Not sure why this game got as much hype as it did. It's literally plagued with all the same problems as every previous entry. Hit registration is horrible, constantly dying because attacks just go through enemies. Attacks always clipping the wall even if you're not right up on it, and yet enemies will stand on the other side of a door as you and just keep attacking, spamming, and hitting you through the wall. The button inputs are horrible. They are like 3 steps behind. You'll be trying to dodge and your character will just keep attacking even though you're not hitting attacks anymore, or the game will spam roll and cause you not to be able to time your attacks. Not to mention 90% of the dodge rolls in the game you still get hit. The hitboxes on the player models are all jacked up, it seems. Let's take a breather over here. What the hell is this guy smoking? Because Elden Ring has one of the best hitboxes in all their games. I remember when the first trailer came out and you could actually see the Tarnish do a move and then a sword went right above his shoulder. People were saying how insanely precise the hitboxes were. So this guy is clearly talking out of his ass and just making excuses. The difficulty seems to be RNG really. I'll run into a regular NPC and it'll seem like I'm having a harder time fighting the regular NPC than I did a boss. 14 tries to kill one dog in the field in Stormvale Castle, but it took me like 6 tries to beat Margit before I even decided to go to the round table. I can go toe to toe and use 1 flask on one of the roaming knights, but man, let me feel you, those birds with knives for feet are near impossible to beat. And it seems like you guys made it near impossible to try to skip enemies to speed run back to your runes, which leads you to fight almost every single one of them, and then by the time you're back, you're either in the same situation or worse because of the RNG of the NPCs. So here, once again, this guy is making no sense because it is so much easier this time around to retrieve your runes, because in some cases, if you're on the overworld, you have a horse, and then even if you don't have a horse, you can just run past them and get your runes. And at the same time, in this game, you don't need a homeward bone. You can TP out whenever you want. So if you went into a hard situation unprepared, I guess it's your bad that you lost your runes. Regular players would use that as a lesson next time around, but then again, this guy is not a regular player. You don't know if you're going to be running into Rambo next or winning the poo. Then you have NPC invaders who ignore the formalities of being a player, like their spell casting times are always different. Sometimes Mad Tongue will take 3 seconds to cast his shards, and other times you go to run up on him and he'll hit you with one in your face with no cast animation. Apparently, you're supposed to gain flasks as well by doing certain things like clearing certain groups of enemies, which worked in the open world, but as soon as it seemed like I went into a dungeon, the mechanic would stop working. Clear groups upon groups of mobs and don't receive anything. They give you very little runes from each enemy, so it takes forever to even level your character up. And then to add to that, they have a bunch of items to collect around the world that are absolutely useless to you, but you can't find a set of gear without buying it from a merchant in early game. Possibly the worst entries in the series. Wow, that is one insane and unhinged review. Honestly, to me, it sounds like this guy never made it out of Limgrave, but let's carry on to the next one. Here's another 1-star review. I've beat this game a few times and have about 400 hours invested, recently beating the game with a level 50 colossal sword build. I can confidently say that this game is just really artificial difficulty that relies heavily on button read punishes, infinite stamina combos, huge AoE attacks, blinding speed, huge delays on one-shot strikes, and massive health pools for most bosses. Unless you're going into battles massively overleveled and kited out from watching YouTube vids, you're going to die a lot, even if you know the moveset like the back of your hand. Parries are largely useless as most moves from bosses can't even be parried. Unless you get off cheesing your way through games with OP weapons and special moves, this probably isn't going to be the difficult game you're searching for. Overall, it leaves a lot to be desired, especially on the PvP end of things. I think it's probably one of the most disappointing RPGs I've played in recent years. Even though it has cool art, neat enemies, and a huge open world, it lacks so heavily in the combat category that it largely makes the game feel like a chore to even play. And I strongly believe that makes it 1-star worthy. Now, how in the actual fuck are you going to spend 400 hours in a game that in your mind is 1 star? If I don't like a game after a couple hours, I'm dropping it, never playing it again. I'm not going to spend an entire month and a half of my life playing the game that I hate. It just doesn't make any sense. The writer of the review did have one valid criticism, though. It was the PvP. I do agree that especially at launch, the PvP was extremely frustrating. When you would invade, most of the time it would be a team of 3 that were just spamming spells, and unless you're like a pro player, it was really frustrating to do invasions. But when they added the Colosseums, that pretty much fixed everything, and then you could have enjoyable PvP again. Alright, here's another one. We have a 1-star review from Prince Valentine's. I'm playing Elden Ring on PS5 with current playtime exceeding 999 hours already on single player mode from Journey 1 till 11, and soloed all bosses without summoning other players online and not even summon the ashes. To me, Elden Ring is easy to play and complete, but I personally found that some areas are too punishing, unnecessarily punishing without any valid reason. And this game has input lag issue, which is not acceptable at all, especially when you're in the battle with a fast moves boss playing offline on the next gen console with a wired controller. My character is already at the highest dexterity level with equipment load always at the lowest, and I never wear any armors just to make sure that my character can move fast, but unfortunately it doesn't help to overcome the input lag read issue. You can try to perform a simple test by making your character run by pressing circle button on your wired controller. Your character will start running 1 second after you press the circle button. Try to perform the same test when you play Sekiro, and you'll notice that your character will start running upon pressing the circle button and not 1 second after. This input read lag issue makes Elden Ring annoying to play compared to the masterpiece Sekiro. Now, I find it hilarious that this guy has put this much time in Elden Ring and still doesn't understand that that's not input lag, it's actually a wind up to the actual running. It's been present since Demon's Souls, since Dark Souls 1, and all the games have been like that. So right now, it's really giving me an old man yelling at cloud vibes. Let's carry on. To make the gaming experience even worse, they purposely reduced the recovery speed of the stamina, even when equipping your character with the green turtle talisman, just to make this game difficult on the highest difficulty, which to me, more annoying than difficult to play and certainly no longer fun. The only reason that I play online is to help other players in the PlayStation community, being summoned into their world to fight their bosses, which I already helped more than 1,000 cases, especially on fighting the final boss. Disappointment on multiplayer mode? Absolutely. It is the unable to join session issue that in my case happened more than 8 times per one single attempt. So the unable to join issue is very common in Souls games. That usually happens when there are multiple people trying to summon and they all click on the summoning sign at the same time. And that's nothing new, and you would think that after 1,000 hours in the game he would have figured that out by now. This happened last year in November when I was participated in their closed network test beta version prior to launch, which to me was acceptable on beta version, but certainly not acceptable at all after 5 months being released with 5 times being patched. I've very good upload download speed, and when playing online I always connect on wired, not wireless, but still this annoying unable to join session issues occurred, and it seems that the developer is too busy or too lazy to fix the issue. In terms of user interface, it has to be bad design, which is always to force the players to confirm on most of the collected items by pressing button on the controller. Why we have to confirm again that the item were collected? Wouldn't it be great if we can know upfront what the item is before we collect it? It's wasting of time to keep on pressing the button on the controller to confirm, especially when there are enemies nearby approaching you. They can attack you very fast while you're busy pressing the confirm button on your controller. Bad design. Nioh is the perfect example of a good and thoughtful UI design. Now, I think that it's such a missed opportunity to criticize the UI design without talking about the two elephants in the room. The first one is that you cannot pull up your map while you're getting attacked, even if you're running away on horseback, which I think should have been a day one patch, because if you want to pull up your map, that's your risk, right? They could disable teleports, but that's one issue I really had with the design of the UI. The other issue is obviously when Torrent dies and you have to confirm that you want to revive him with a flask. That's something that could be removed entirely, and I don't think anybody would complain about that. So those are two, in my opinion, valid criticism of the UI. I try my best to enjoy Elden Ring as much as I enjoy playing the masterpiece Sekiro, but it failed to give me the same enjoyable and fun experience, unfortunately. Hence, 1 star, not recommended. So let me get this straight. This guy spent over 1,000 hours, that is 125 days in a row, playing 8 hours a day. That's like having a full-time job for 4 months, and he still thinks it's dog shit. Dog shit enough to give it a 1 star rating. Absolutely mind-blowing. Like I said before, I don't know about you guys, but if I'm playing a game that I feel is a 1 star, kind of like Dolmen, after a few hours, I drop it and I never play it again. I certainly don't spend 4 months of my life playing it all day. But anyways, let's move on to the next one. I'm going to need you guys to strap in for this one because we have a tough guy on our hands. Here it goes. 1 star. This game is way too easy for even a casual gamer like myself. Where to begin? You can summon multiple NPCs to help you for almost every encounter. On top of that, you can also summon other players pretty much at any time at the same time as NPC summons. Overpowered much? This makes every fight one-sided in favor of the player. You can only be invaded when you've summoned a cooperator, so basically every random PvP encounter favors the one invaded. At every site of grace, there's a giant golden band in the sky that points you in the exact direction you're supposed to go. There are also statues scattered around that show you the exact path towards the hidden dungeons. The starting map shows you exactly where to pick up the other map fragments. Even the tutorial has a ghost in a chair pointing exactly at the spot where it begins. How am I supposed to feel like I have the freedom to explore anything when the game is telling me exactly where to go and what to do all the time? Also, I began as a level 1 wretch and was easily able to obtain a full armor set and several thousand souls at the first enemy encampment. 2 extremely overpowered weapons were literally just sitting in chests on either side of this encampment. Upgrading weapons doesn't even require blacksmith anymore. You can do it pretty much right away. You also get access to the horse pretty early on, which lets you literally just run away from every fight. If that's too slow for you, you can travel from anywhere in the overworld. Ridiculous. Where is the challenge? This game defaults to very easy mode, and easy mode only unlocks after you beat the game and go to New Game Plus. Why don't we have the option to have hard or even normal mode in this game? It's literally the current year and this developer is making video games that don't have basic challenging features like weapon durability and survival management. Absolutely not for any gamer seeking a challenge. Maybe give it to your 3-year-old as his first video game. Way too easy. Any adult would have to have literal negative IQ to even marginally struggle with any aspect of this game. So I think this guy is just straight up gaslighting. There's no way he finds it that easy. And if he really does find it that easy, then good for him. I guess he's a god tier gamer and he should get a medal and a cookie or something. Because in my opinion, the game is pretty balanced. If you do a couple mistakes in a row, you're pretty much screwed. And yeah, if you summon a bunch of people, it will be a lot easier, but that's also an optional difficulty. You don't have to do it. That's the beauty about Elden Ring. You can make the game as difficult or as easy as you like. Well, at least that's my opinion. Obviously, this guy thinks that there is no way to make the game hard, but if you're that much of an OG and a badass, then just go with no weapons. Just punch every single enemy and you'll have a decent challenge that way. So that's pretty much it for the video. I still had a bunch more reviews to look at, but I don't want the video to be too long. If you enjoyed the videos, please leave a like, leave a comment. It's truly appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. That way you'll never miss another video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.